When's the last time you've bombed? Like where you felt like I'm just dying up here and I can't wait to get off stage.
So, like a real bomb, uh, it's kind of interesting because the whole show was bomb. It was probably this was a really bad one. Now was in I want to say February or March. I was no, yeah, it would have been March. I was headlining a club, and the whole show was going pretty bad. And I went up and I gave them basically everything I had for like, it was the drunk late show. They haven't listened to a word of the show before I got on. And I
Right.
just like kind of just went, hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him. And the first 25 were, I mean, they were bombing, but they weren't the bombing that had preceded it.
Right.
But then once that 25 minutes ended, they were so done and drunk and just finished with everything that I basically just talked for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I did two things actually. I talked and I sweated, and it was horrendous. Yeah.
Oh God, when you're just like nothing, when you just hear the words leaving your mouth and you're like, nothing I'm saying is funny and nothing will get your attention. This is just I'm just stuck. I'm stuck up here.
I have no other options here. And it was the last show of the weekend too, so way to end on a high note.
Oh God, the last that's why like when like you go to a club and like there's no Sunday show or like there's no like Friday late show where it's like man, thank God, like those are the worst. You just feel so bad after like having some good shows, and to end like that, get on a plane being like, well, that was fun until the last day.
Have you ever gotten a red eye after a weekend?
Oh yeah, sometimes though I like it.
I mean, I like it from the point of view of getting home, but I just took one this past weekend, and it's like, if that last show was a bomb, and then you're like, all right, now I got to kill an hour, and then wait at the airport, and then do a 4-hour flight.
Yeah, yeah.
Not sleep in a bed tonight, and then make it home and just waste a Sunday.
Yeah. Did you ever do the like go? Well, that I mean, you describe it a little bit with the red eye, but like you have those early morning flights, and you're like, well, I could go back to the condo or the room. I'm gonna sleep for like 2 hours, or do I just go to the airport now and be at the airport?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've missed a few flights doing it the other way.
Yeah.
Just 2 hours, couple of beers, only had a few beers, 2 hours, I'll be fine. You wake up, my flight left 2 hours ago. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're like rebooking and you're like, okay. I love when like anything that happens on your way to or from a show, you're just looking at like the money, like the stack of money go down. It's like, okay, I had to change my flight. The hotel needs this. Okay, I had to get gas here instead of like it's just notching it down every time.
Yeah, you're like, I'm getting paid $1,000. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh wait, flights are 300. Oh, the other gig's 5 hours away. Looks like I'm renting a car, and then you get home and you're like, I could have just stayed home this weekend.
Absolutely, yeah, dude. And then we're so dumb. When we get the check, like it's been like, by the time we deposit it, it's been like 2 or 3 days. We're like, I just made $1,000. It's like totally forget everything that just happened.
I just worked for free.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're like, well, that was fun. What do you when you have that feeling on stage when the sweat starts to come and you're like, well, the ship has been lost, do you just try to double down and just take it farther, or do you just sort of sit back and you're like, whatever, I'm done.
It depends, man, because I'm like, sometimes I'll slow down.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just go, you know what? Either you're gonna come on board with this or not. But it's so dependent. Like, honestly, I hate to say this, but sometimes it's dependent on my mood, man.
Right.
Like, because there can be a crowd that's just like, they're not really laughing a lot, but you can tell they're enjoying themselves, and
right.
And they haven't seen the shows we've seen. we've performed thousands of times. We've seen a lot. They don't have that frame of reference to know what a great show is. So sometimes you just have to like, you just hang in there and do your thing, and honestly, just pretend you're having a great time. Just pretend this is the best show that has ever existed, and just deliver your stuff like normal, and it's fine. But sometimes I'll get in a, now rare enough, but it does happen, I'll get in a bad mood with a crowd where I'm just like, you guys are shitty. And that's when I'll go like, all right, okay, here we go. Gloves are off. Anything I think might antagonize you, I'm going to do now. You know?
Yeah.
It's rare because, I don't know, the thing too is like, that's usually in a situation where it's just like drunk people, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. What? Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No. I was just gonna say, I feel like once every, like, I'd be curious to know what it is for you. Like once every 8 months, 6 to 8 months, I'm good for like a real snap out on stage, you know, where like it's just not going well, and it's all compounded from shows, where you just go, you know what, you go, like you said, you go up with a bad attitude, and you're like, I'm going to attack this crowd and try to bait them into being to heckle so I can go after them even more. You know, it's just like, it's like the parent that loses their cool in the grocery store, you know?
Do you know what you just made me realize while you were saying that, actually? Well, sometimes when I have a bad crowd, I'll just do crowd work.
Yeah, right.
And that's it. I'll go, all right, you're not going to be fun for my material. And part of it is like self-preservation, where it's like, I like my jokes. I'm not going to let you think my jokes aren't good. So you know what? I'm just going to talk to you and insult you for 45 minutes.
Yeah, dude, yeah. I said it to another comic. I was like, our jokes are so, you know, like you said, we like our jokes. It's like nothing worse than having to pick your favorite kids to go get bullied, you know, like just like go out there and get beat up on the playground. You know?
Oh man, that's exactly what it is. And here's the thing, is like, it's this weird thing where when a crowd is really bad or unresponsive like that, and not the type of crowd I was talking about before, where they're just, sometimes it's an older crowd and they're having a good time, but they're just not very energetic. You know, I mean, like when a crowd is kind of shitty, like there's no better way to take the power back than be like, oh, you want to be shitty? All right, well, I'm just going to be shitty to you for 45 minutes. And to be honest with you, it ends up being a better show than it would have been. Like if I just plowed through and did the jokes, like, because sometimes when you mess with people, you know, you talk to the crowd, you get in there, it ends up being more interactive. It ends up kind of bringing the room up a little bit. You have a better time overall. So it is like, it's one kind of trick I have up my sleeve that I try not to use too much, because there's also that side of me that, like, when I get off stage after doing a lot of crowd work, I'm like, you took the night off. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, there is that feeling of like, I came here, I flew here, I drove here, I want to work on material. And when you don't, you know, people come up to you, they go, we love crowd work, you should do more of it. And it's like, I mean, I also have a notebook full of jokes that I've been working on for a year that I really wanted to tell.
I know. My dad is like the biggest proponent of that. Even though he lives in a different continent, he's seen me on stage like 30 plus times. And he's always, I remember we were driving to a show one time in Sanford, Florida. I'm headlining 2 nights. I headlined the first night and he was like, that was great, but come here, tomorrow night, will you do more of that stuff where you mess with the crowd? And I go, yeah, no problem. And just because I was like, whatever, this isn't the gig that defines me. So I went back the following night and did like 40 minutes of crowd work. And I get back in the car afterwards and he goes, best set I ever seen you do.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, thanks. Thank you so much.
Yeah, don't worry about the material. No, the best set was the one. He's so funny, man. When he found out, I called him to tell him about when I found out I was going to be doing the Tonight Show. And him and my mom were in the car driving. He answers the phone and I go, I just found out I'm going to be doing the Tonight Show. And then the phone like cuts out immediately, right? And then he calls me back like a half hour later. And this local team from where I'm from, their name is Mullinyock. It's not really that relevant, but they had just won this like the Leinster Championship, this big championship at home where they're this tiny little place of like 300 people, and they beat a team in Dublin that had like 10,000 players to pick from or whatever. And so he calls me up, and first thing he goes is, well, Sean, did you hear Mullinacht won the championship?
Oh my God.
And I go, yeah, I heard. He goes, anyway, who's this Fallon fella? Never heard of him.
Oh my God. That is.
He goes, yeah. He goes, is this a big deal? I go, yeah, it is. Yeah, let's just say it's by far the biggest thing that has happened in my career today. And he goes, all right. So what you're saying is this is your equivalent of Mullinacht to win the championship. Oh, he's a madman.
Dude, nothing puts comedy more into perspective than doing that when you like get something like that, or you open for somebody huge and you're like, I'm opening for so and so, and people go, oh, where would I've seen them? You know, I don't think I ever heard of them. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
It's brutal. I mean, when you have an opportunity like that, like the Tonight Show, do you think about this business is so fickle with like how it treats you and how you feel about it? You know, that's something you work for. It goes off correctly. You know, do you think about the times where you go, all right, this is my moment. This is my big moment, and it doesn't go well? And like, what were some of those moments where you thought this was going to be it for me? It doesn't go well, but it doesn't break you because you're still here, obviously. But in the moment you go, I'm done. I'm just done with this.
Oh, man. I mean, what's funny about it is 5 days before I got the audition for 5 days before I auditioned for the Tonight Show, I was standing in the subway in New York telling my girlfriend I was quitting comedy.
Yeah. Of course.
That is, and as in, like, of all the times, I mean, I've never really thought about quitting much. That was the only time ever that I was like, no, I think I'm done with this.
Right.
I genuinely think I'm done. And she was like, I'm not going to let you, you know, she's an artist. She's like, you know, I really do take inspiration from the way you get out there and you make it work and you make it happen. And she goes, I'm not going to let you quit. Well, like, I was like, I was done, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then I fly to Houston, do a 2-minute audition for Stand Up NBC, do the semi-final. And, you know, literally it was the Thursday that I was like, I'm quitting. And then the following Tuesday, I was like, oh, I guess I'm auditioning for the Tonight Show now. You know, it was just a bad night. It wasn't like, it was, you know what it was? It was a lot of like just not really having a direction. I was in New York, and, right, you know, I was making okay. You know, I was making money on the road, but just basically handing it over in rent, you know, right, just like, and New York, you know, I made some headway here and there, but it wasn't really what I was hoping for. And then one night I was doing like a check spot and headlining a roast battle, and both went horrifically. And I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. God, it is so specific sometimes to this city where, like, I remember, like, especially first moving here, you're just completely aimless. You know, you have no idea what to do. And a show, I remember like bombing on a show, getting on the subway, feeling horrible, and then realizing I was on the wrong subway and I was just going in the opposite direction, and like calling my roommate and being like, dude, if you could do me a favor and start packing up my room, I'm leaving. Like, I'm leaving tonight. I'm getting out of here. But yeah, it's like, if you just survive that day, by the next day, you're like, well, I'm not going to quit. You know,
I mean, the next day I was on a flight to Houston, you know?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, but there are those real low moments. That was the second. I only ever had 2 low moments in New York, and one of them I didn't even live there for. A friend got me, I was living in Florida at the time, and a friend got me some spots in New York. He was pretty well connected there. And I went to do one in the Village Lantern, right? And I showed up there, the guy's booking, he goes, oh yes, you're doing 10. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I get in there and there's like 8 people in the crowd, right?
Right.
But I was like, all right, 8 people, let's do my thing. I was also only like 2 2.5 years into comedy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I had my 10, 15 minutes that worked well for me, but it wasn't like New York tested, I guess is the way to put it.
Right.
It wasn't like, those nights where it doesn't matter what you say, you're gonna bomb.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna struggle. Just the venue you're in on that given night with 8 people who don't give a shit, who were dragged in off the street, it's not gonna go well. I wasn't like I hadn't trained for that, is the best way to put it.
Right, yeah.
It's not that the material was bad, and it's not that the material was good. I just hadn't trained for that specifically. And I went in there and I bombed. Like this might be the worst bomb I've ever had. And they lit me at 4.
Oh.
And I got off at 5. And I walked up the steps, because this is when the lantern was still downstairs. I walked up the steps and I bought a box of cigarettes and just walked around New York for about an hour.
My God, it's like a scene from like Taxi or something. Like
it was. I texted her. I had a friend who was also in town, and he was at some bar up around. He was a good bit further up, and after walking around for like 20 minutes, I was like, "Hey, if you're around, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm at this bar," and I just walked there and just sat in the booth, and it was so bad because I was just like trying to be like, conversational and fun. I'm with my friend, his girlfriend, and then 2 other people I didn't know, and I must have just been such a bummer.
Oh God!
And Matt, my buddy, was there. I remember my first bomb in New York, and. And that was it. So that was one that I remember thinking at the time, oh man, I can't put myself through this anymore. But bombs don't affect you as time goes on the way they did in the past,
Yeah, right, right.
So it's everyone thinks differently. Everyone has a different mindset. But for me, it's just like, if you offered me, and this is no lie, if you offered me like $100 for the best show I'll ever do, or $1,000 for a pretty bad one, I'd be like, give me the money.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Imagine, like, I'm talking about a show that you would go, man, you're going to feel good about this one for weeks. Because you know what the thing is, I've noticed, even the ones that go great, you talk yourself out and you go, that crowd was too easy.
Right. Yeah. I didn't get anything.
Money is the only thing, the only consistency in this business, the only thing that you can actually do something with.
That is so true. Like, because even a bad show, you go, well, it's over in an hour, like for an hour, I'll do that. Yeah.
And plus it's not like I couldn't have a bomb now like that one in New York, because and it's not just a level of skill thing. It's just it's the old gunslinger, like, not that I'm only like coming up on 10 years, but it's that attitude of like, I've seen it all,
Yeah.
I've seen it all. You can't break me. You can be the worst crowd ever, and I will just clock out at 45 and be on my way.
Yeah, 100%. Oh God, some of those sets were whatever, like whether you're doing 10, 5, 30, 45. As soon as you see like your phone turn over to that number, you're like, I'm out of here. I am 100% out of here. Yeah.
Joe, here's a weird one. I don't know what the psychology behind this is, but somehow I have a habit of going longer on bad shows than I do on good ones.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if it's like you're continuing to like search for like the good moment.
Here's why it's weird. I don't think that's it. I don't think it's me going, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. I think it's me going, they're bad. Let me just try a bunch of shit out.
Yeah, that's true, because when you have that, you're like, well, I might as well use this almost like batting practice, you know? Just throw whatever.
Because you can sneak a new joke in front of a good crowd and convince yourself that, oh, this is legit, but really it was just a hot crowd. But if you try something that you've been thinking about in front of a bad crowd, you get a decent reaction, you're like, oh, I might actually have something in it. It's just a more honest test of your material.
That's a great point. Yeah. And it's also, you're like, how much farther how much worse can this get? It's not going to get any worse short of like a fight breaking out, like, What?
Oh, by the way, sorry, real quick. I
Please.
saw on your Instagram story, that was real funny. The clip you posted about the light laughers and how it's great. You know, some shows I can't even hear myself.
Yeah, dude. You're like, I mean, I was like, and then the headliner came up. Matthew Broussard I was working with. He comes up and he goes, "That was the first time I've ever seen a comedian warm up to the audience." He's like, usually it's the other way, where like the audience has to warm up to the show. And dude, it was just one of those nights where you're like, you're doing the jokes the same, everything is the same. And they're just sort of like chuckling, and then they stop, and then there's no momentum, and you're like, what are you guys up to? You know, what are you up to? Like, oh yeah, nothing better than that.
It's so funny because I've heard, like, obviously, you know, there's a lot of stuff in comedy that I don't want to say hack or whatever, but stuff that it's like, you know, tricks that some comics will do, maybe some like road dogs, or even just people who just, you know, absorb it through seeing other comics. And it's like, I really like when someone comes up with like an original way to tell the crowd they're shitty, and so that really tickled me.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I remember, and it's so funny, like what we get out of this. Like, I remember getting off stage and being like, well, if nothing else, maybe I'll have a clip, you know, like if nothing else, I'll have something to post, you know.
And that's the thing about it too, is like when you're doing, I don't know, when you're doing those shows, it's just like, yeah, whatever. Let me try and make the most of whatever this is, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Try to salvage it. Yeah. And we're usually, I feel like comics are usually pretty good at it, of being like, we'll get what we can, you know, we'll get what we can out of you, and that's fine.
Yeah, because it seemed like they were laughing just fine in the clip, you know?
Right, yeah.
Exactly. What I loved about that as well is, I think the key to it is like, it's very difficult to, it can be quite difficult to tell a crowd that they're shitty without losing face or seeming like defeated, you know?
Right.
It's like, but if you slip one in there like that, it's just like, oh, and we're still having a good time, and it's not what they're gonna leave remembering. They're not gonna go, oh yeah, and the comedian, he wasn't doing very well. He said, he started saying that we were, you know, a bad audience or whatever. It's just like a funny little quip, and then you keep going, and maybe you endear yourself to them a little bit more, and then the show goes on. Because it sounded like they were laughing just fine in the clip.
Yeah. They were, you know, it just took a little bit for them to get rolling. And maybe you feel like this, where like I don't do a ton of crowd work, but when I have to, I always try to do it from a standpoint of like, we're together. You know what I mean? Like, I know some comics, they're very good at it, and they can pit themselves against the audience and still keep them. Right. I can't do it. You know, I can't go up there and be like, hey, I'm better than you. You all suck. And also, aren't Ubers crazy? You know, like, I just can't. I can't do it. You know.
No, I never say. I don't think I say I'm better than them, but I definitely like mock them relentlessly. Yeah, but it's like, it's fun. I think the big thing that I've noticed is, if I go into like a chunk, or I do like, if I do a bunch of crowd work, like the next people up are always ready to talk to me. It's not like, you know, I'm making fun of them because they say something stupid, or there's some situation or something funny in their lives or something, or even just every so often, which is a great one, is you get to the person who just overshares, you know, and just immediately, like, you're like, oh, what? All right, okay. Well, I know I'm going to be talking for the next 20 minutes, dominating the conversation over here.
Yeah. And you're like, man, we've really found a gold mine here. You know, just keep letting it happen.
Exactly. And I'm not a big guy for like, I don't do there's nothing stock. I just go up there and talk because I want it to feel natural. I got lucky. I was the house MC of a club in Cocoa Beach, Florida for a year and a half, where they wanted me to do 20 minutes up top. And I was only like very new into comedy. So I basically just had to fill the time with crowd work and just became very comfortable with it.
Isn't that crazy how that all works out? Where like, that is a rough gig to be the house MC in
9
a
months
club
in.
in Florida, and we knew, but God, it just, if you can get through it, if you can like do it and not want to quit comedy by the end of that, you are so, and you're also, I think you have to naturally have like a presence of mind that you're funny and that like you can take these lessons. But God, you're formed so much more sharper and harder, when you come out of it. Because there's what it would be worse than that,
Man, I'm telling you, I found out the biggest problem I had early on is like I started headlining, the Southeast rooms, not like big clubs, but whatever, the bar shows, the clubs that you wouldn't really want to work. I started headlining first like 2.5 years in, and then it really kind of kicked off about 3.5 years in. And but I would do mostly crowd work, and the biggest problem I found, well, not mostly, it'd be like a 50-50 split. I would basically just be up there filling time, but it looked convincing. Like if you were to come in, you go, oh yeah, headliner, whatever. But I knew it wasn't good, but it was getting enough laughs and was complaining. So but my problem at that time was I never knew when. Sometimes I'd take the material a little too far before I'd figure out, oh, they're not coming with you, kick into crowd work. It was that balancing act of figuring out how quick I needed to get to it, just until I actually had 45 minutes of material where I could just go up and do a proper headlining set.
Right. Yeah. So much of it. And it's crazy because, I mean, other people have said this isn't breaking any ground, but this really is one of the only art forms, businesses, professions where you would never know to have that balance unless you go up and not have it. You really do have to go through the ringer and fail and be like, oh, I should have did this, and to get it. And it's crazy. Yeah,
for sure. I had I was doing a gig one time at a biker bar in Hudson, Florida. Right?
Oh my God.
Nothing in that sentence is positive. And so we show up to the gig, and I mean biker bar in the truest sense. Our audience is bikers and girlfriends or wives of bikers. That's it. Right. There's like a whole gang. There's like 35 of them. And the only thing that saved us was we brought a guy for a guest spot. I was headlining, a friend of mine, Tommy, was featuring, and we brought a guest spot. And the guest spot shows up, and I guess he used to ride too and knew some of the guys in the fucking biker gang.
Yeah.
So like the guest spot immediately he knew them. They were like catching up or like endearing. He was endearing himself to them or whatever. And so they liked him. And he was not a very good comic, right? Not that he was bad, but he was just newer, Mm-hmm. So when he went up, and they kind of liked, they liked him as a person. So then they kind of, by proxy, didn't mind his set. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of made it a little easier for us. And we got up there because it's like, well, we're actually all right at this right now. So,
right. Yeah.
But I remember starting that set, and the first thing I said was, I go, Hudson, what? I go, what do you even do here? What do you even do in this town, right? And this guy, we'll call him the gang leader, yells out, "We ride bikes, don't make fun of it."
And then you just...
It was I honestly felt like I was being paid to spend 45 minutes in a hostage situation.
Yeah, right, yeah. And then it's from there immediately to the notes like, so anyway, dating's crazy. Yeah. God, some of these rooms we do have, they just sit on the line, that tension to burst into hostility. They really, and it's our job to keep it from blowing up.
Yeah, I don't mind those tense situations anymore, or like something like that, because that's an easy, like, once you figured out what your capabilities are on stage, anything like that is an easy fix. Tension, can lead to the biggest laughter, and like something like that situation, the easiest way I find to play that is just basically go down the route of, oh great, I'm about to get my ass kicked, like,
Right.
and then they start laughing, like it's almost as if you're the beta on stage, but they
Right.
kind of they get on board with the character and the idea of like, oh yeah, this guy is almost afraid to be here.
Yes, because what they're like, it's really interesting because you are totally in control of the room by not showing that you're in control of the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's such a good, no, I don't want to say trick, but it's such a good skill. Like there are so many crowds like that, like, conservative crowds or rowdy crowds, whatever it is, where you have to come off as as you said, like the beta or the underdog.
Right.
But because you're able to do that, you control the room. You are the alpha.
That's it. So much of it is like, there's so much of it is psychology that I almost like find myself trying not to lean into it too much and just going, well, just talk about what you want to talk about. Because like, here's a perfect example. It was a headliner from America, right? Mm-hmm. And he went over to Ireland. Ireland has this club called the Laughter Lounge in Dublin, right? And this guy comes over and he headlines the first night and he bombs, right? And he goes, I don't understand. I've been doing these jokes forever. They always work. I don't know what's going on. And he goes, and one of the other acts, the MC, because the MC is the huge job in Ireland. The MC gets them going. The MC gets paid as much as the headliner. The MC presents the show, The MC goes up to him. He goes, all right, here's my advice to you. Go up there tomorrow night. And first thing you do, tell them they're legends. Tell them they're great. Tell them how great they are at drinking. Get them to cheer. And then do exactly the same set again. And he did it. And he smashed the second night.
God, it's so funny. It's so interesting. Fun.
Yeah.
Where and I'm sure you've been here like that biker club, right? Where you go, they just need to be acknowledged for a second, Yeah. I don't know where I am. Where are we? You guys look tough. This town is whatever. And then the rest is yourself.
That's it. And then I fall like 5 minutes later, I fall right back into making fun of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, but because they know that don't mean any harm, they accept it. They probably want it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's the other thing too, is they genuinely do want it. I find in general, like, a conservative crowd wants you to rip into them much more so than like a liberal crowd.
Yes, absolutely. They're like, talk about our fast food, talk about this dumb bar, like.
Yeah, like in a conservative crowd, you'll have a guy stand up in the middle of it and just go, I'm fat, make fun of me.
Right. Yeah.
They almost invite it.
Yeah. Sometimes you get like a liberal crowd where you're on stage, be like, I'm fat. And they'd be like, no, you're not. And you shouldn't say that. And it's like, wait, I'm fat, Yeah.
No. Don't say that about yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Strapping gentleman.
Yeah. God. Oh my God. Let me ask you this before we get out of here. Two questions. So I know, we work together in Raleigh, and I know you like to have a good time, and you have such good energy on stage where you come out and it's like a Roman candle going off. You know what I mean? Like from the time you pick up the microphone, it's an explosion. So I know recently you had a show, and we don't have to say where, but you did a show outside for an Irish festival.
Yeah.
That sounds to me, if someone said, hey, we want to put you outside in an Irish festival where there's probably going to be drinking, that doesn't sound fun. How was that show? And what were your thoughts going into it? And then what were your thoughts coming out of it?
I'll tell you what, that's a great two-part question, because especially the thoughts coming in versus going out, because that when I showed up to the location, I said, this gig is destined for failure. And it was one of those scenarios where, again, it was the pay versus the good gig, and I saw what they were willing to pay, and I was like, yeah, I'm there.
Right. Yeah.
So it was 2 nights. We showed up, and to defend the organizers, they just didn't have comedy before. They didn't know what they didn't know what we needed or expected, right? So I get there, and there is a mini marquee with 20 seats inside it, and this marquee has 2 walls. You know, so like 2 sides of the marquee are just out in the open, just ready for festival music to blare in, right?
Yeah.
And this is more. So if I sent you, I'll send you a photo of what it looked like initially. Like we were gonna bomb, and we were gonna be forgotten about, and the festival would never try comedy again. But Dave, the guy that I was with, is like very business savvy, sales oriented, marketing, understands gigs, understands how to set up a room. I mean, we all know how to set up a room a little bit at least, but he knows what is required. So he got the staff on board. He said, here's what we're going to need. We're going to need chairs, rows and rows of chairs. So our 20-seater marquee had 150 people the first night and 250 the second night.
Wow, that's crazy.
Like 90% of the audience was not in the marquee, and both shows were great, really great. Yeah. And it was one of those things too, where like we told them going in, we're not going to be PG. We're going to say what we want to say. So if you want to say it's R-rated, 18 and up, do whatever you want. And in the past, when I had done Irish festivals, I was always kind of like dicey on it. I was like, just it skews older. They want to do their Irish things, or Scottish things in a lot of cases, even though it's an Irish festival. They're like, let's wear a kilt and throw a log, and I'm like, yeah, okay, we don't do any of that, but whatever. And so because of that, they kind of some of them kind of focus on the religion side of it a little bit, and the family side of it a little bit, and it skews older the crowd. So in the past, I'd kind of been like dicey on doing anything too adventurous, but this time around, I just let it fly, man. Said whatever I wanted, and it was great. It was really great. Like one of those, it was a 8 or a 9 that should have been a 2.
Right. Yeah. That's the best, where you go. I mean, that anxiety going into it is sometimes awful, but when you come out of that and you're like, because that's a big climb. I don't think people realize, like, when you're at a 2, like you're in a hole. A 2 is low. We have to now climb. We have to have a good enough show that we're out of the hole and that we're actually up. Like we're not even at surface level. We are above.
I mean, when I say a 2, we looked at it. We're like, we have 20 seats, a little wooden crate for a stage, 2 walls, so we're dealing with music bleeding in. We're dealing with a train regularly going by, which did end up being a factor the second night. But not during my set, so I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like everything, it seemed like it was all stacked against us, and it went from that to I'll be back next year.
Yeah, it's the best. It makes all the other ones that we're like, it's worth it. It's 100% worth it. Yeah. Sure. What do you like to do post show? Is there, especially like if a show doesn't go well, right? And it doesn't have to be like some all out bomb, but it just doesn't go well. You don't feel good. What do you like to do to sort of offset that, to get yourself back to feeling good? Is there a vice, a food, a drink, or a thing you like to do that's like, I gotta get out of this?
I would say shot in a beer, but it depends. Yeah. It depends. Yeah. If I'm on the road, grab the other comic, shot in a beer. Let's talk about this.
Yes, right, yeah.
But if I'm at home, it's like, whatever. Go home.
Right. Yeah.
Go home, watch TV, hang out with my dog, whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you bomb where you live, you just have to get home. Just get home, and you'll reset. When you bomb on the road, and you go back to that hotel room, those walls start looking real small,
I'll tell you. And that's and to that point, bombing at home has no stakes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Bombing at home has no stakes. Chances are it's a mic, it's a showcase, it's a workshop set anyway.
Right.
So it's like, all right, what do? I see what I learned and see if there's 2 lines I can salvage from a bit that just didn't do well. You know?
Right. Yeah. God, the shot in the beer. It's funny because the shot in the beer is the same for bombing as it is, I think, for celebration, where you're like,
yeah,
that was great.
yeah.
Let's get a shot in a beer and hang out. You know?
That's why the Irish drink at funerals.
Yeah, it's why wouldn't you? You know, it's
Celebration
like
of sorts,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah, right. Yeah, there is something.
Yeah.
When you can get other comics to get together. The worst is when you're the only one that bombs and everybody has to pretend that the show was bad. You know, it's like, yeah, they were kind of weird, you know, but also I killed. Yeah. But when you can get the other comics to sort of buy in and be like, hey, we're weird, you know, forget it. Who cares? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't listen. If you're the only one that bombs, that's especially like because now most of the gigs I do, I'm either doing a headlining weekend somewhere, or I guess like featuring for a big name, but that's pretty rare for me. So it's like if I'm the only one that bombs and I'm the headliner, it's like, oh man, I really need to rethink some shit, you know?
Yeah.
Thankfully, that hasn't happened to me in a good long time. But
yeah,
you know, who knows? The next one could be right around the corner.
Yeah, and then you're just in a comfort inn with like a styrofoam container of food, and you're like, what am I doing? Like what? Like existentially, what am I doing?
Yo, I'll tell you a weird one: bombing on a cruise ship.
Oh yeah, that's got to be.
You just gotta walk around that ship.
Oh, good lord!
All the people, you're just like, doesn't matter if they were at the show or not. You're like, no, they suck. God. You're stuck on the seas with just people who you think hate you.
Right, because as comics, our only like thing going for us is that we're comics. You know what I mean? Like if you're in a big party or crowded room, my first instinct is like, I wish these people knew I did comedy. Not from an egotistical thing, but from a thing of like, this is the only thing that I have confidence in. So if they know I did comedy, maybe it would be easier to talk to people. I would feel more, confident.
I'll tell you a messed up part about it is, so actually, here's the thing about cruises is there's going to be at least 2 comics on board, right?
Right.
It's either going to be 2 or 4, depending on the ship you're on, right? But your shows are pretty much all different. Sometimes you do a theater show where you'll do 15 minutes each, but most shows are just, you go up and you do a half hour, and then they have a completely different time slot, and they go up and they do their half hour, and it goes that way for how many shows you have, right? So that can actually be worse, because in your head you're going, oh, the other guy's show went well, and now they have a frame of reference. This is worse than if I was the only one here bombing on my own.
Right. Yeah.
There's someone to compare you to now. You know?
Right. Yeah. That other person was really good. You know.
We like the guy with the cowboy hat. He was funny. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. That is such a it's always like something that we're like, we like the guy with the cowboy hat, or we like the person that had the you know what they did? They took their wig off, you know, and you're like, what's going on here? What's happening?
Do you know what's crazy is, have you ever done like a rural casino?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so why is it that the MCs of those gigs always have like a weird hat or a light up jacket, and they're always like a local radio guy? And I'm not just thinking of one person here. I've done this like 4 or 5 times. It's like, oh, your gimmick is you just wear a light up hat.
Right. Yes. You know what it is that these places don't have any comedians and any comedy that they go, who's the funniest person in town? Oh, the guy that starts every day with like fart noises and in between traffic, you know, it's like, get them to come, and he'll wear some crazy blazer or sunglasses. He'll get everybody's names wrong. You know,
he'll get everyone's names wrong. He'll get the credits wrong, but he will always tell them about the $4 Jaeger special.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It will do no time. It will do no time, by the way.
No, he'll say he'll do 15, but he will do no time. I can't tell you how many times I've been like, he's like, so I usually do about, whatever, 10, 15 minutes. And then like as a feature, it's a nightmare, because you're just like, at any given second, he could be like, all right, you ready for the next guy?
Yeah. We didn't even get the first one. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I did a casino both one time, and I gotta tell you, it's pretty hilarious when the only sound in the room is someone leaving on a rascal scooter.
Oh my God, that must just ring in your ears for hours.
And shout out to Connor Larson, a friend of mine from Nashville. That's his. That's our story we shared together. Man, this casino boat was in bad condition. I just remember, and I'm not. I'm gonna mention a name here, but it's not anything to do with the guy. It's so funny the juxtaposition between his comedy and what I would do, where I'm like an aggressive guy. The night of the first gig, I'm at the bar, and this guy comes up. He's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, we're doing a comedy show." And he goes, "Oh, I was at the comedy show last week. It was great. The headliner was Tim the dairy farmer." Right? And then I looked at him and I go, "Well, then you're gonna hate my comedy." And I don't even know Tim. I've heard of Tim. I've heard of him. I just know him as like, but a generally like cheerful disposition. I'm just like, no, you're gonna hate this.
Yeah, you're gonna want to leave. Yeah.
God,
that's brutal, man. God, that is just so relatable. Oh God. I can't thank you enough for doing this. This is just so fun to talk to you about some of this stuff. Tell people where they can find you, where they can see you, and what you got coming up.
Yeah. So I post everything on Instagram and Facebook and that. So if they want to give me a follow on Instagram, it's Shawnee Finnerty, SeanyFinnerty. Facebook is just my name, Sean Finnerty. So the same thing without the Y in the middle. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, what have I got coming up? Off the top of my head, I think I'm going back on a cruise ship next. So just follow me. I post all my dates on there, and you can see from there.
Right on, man. Well, this was a blast. Thank you so much for doing this, dude.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have to catch up again soon.
Yeah.